Hello, lads. I am in the midst of working on a multi volume epistolary piece. Epistolary meaning that's a fancy way of saying a letter. And that, in fact, the title of the piece is A Letter to Today's Unwanted Men. Now, this is all on my Substack page, and I have so far written parts 1 through 5. I think there might be a couple more to go, but I just felt drawn to do this, compelled to complete this letter, in which I address men, young men today, facing the kind of situation that they're facing. Uh, a situation in which, as I've said before, a point that I've made before, and that others are making as well in their own way, that if you're a low to mid status young man today, you are basically invisible in a way that you were not invisible in years past. The equivalent of your equivalent uh, in decades past, before the 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 demolition, the heartless demolition of monogamy that came about through the totally planned and controlled sexual revolution, which was engineered from on high. Um, Before that happened, men like these men uh, did not have a difficult time, did not have such a difficult time finding a wife. In fact, it was something that was relatively easy to do. Why was this the case back then? It was the case back then because the cultural circumstances did not promote hypergamy in women. I mean, there's a certain degree of hypergamy in women is fine, is natural. Women want to be with a man who is above their station, somebody who will protect them, somebody who will, you know, improve their lives, somebody that they know has good qualities, will display good qualities as a husband and a father, and as a provider and so forth. But there was a time when those expectations were kept in check, and if you were a woman of a certain station, let's say in the middle class of society, you could be okay with a man who was basically middle class as well. Um, and I write about this in uh, letter 2 uh, in the series so far. I write about how it must have been in years past when there were still uh, high status men who were out there making women swoon, and you still had your Gary Coopers and your Cary Grants, and other types of guys like that, matinee idols, radio crooners and stuff. But your average, middle American girl, uh, uh, getting to be of marriageable age, didn't honestly think she was going to land one of those guys, and it just wasn't even in the books for her. And it was a time when uh, uh, a woman could be satisfied with more of somebody who was just on her level, closer to her level. Again, not at or below her level usually, because she was wanting to look for someone who was good for her, somebody who would improve her lot. But it wasn't so unforgiving and harsh, and You didn't have millions of men just being ignored the way it's happening, the way it's happening now to young men. With this drought of this sexlessness drought that they talk about. Some survey in which they say up to 63% of younger men are single are and like that's twice the number of women that same age who are single. So something is amiss. Something has gone terribly awry. A YouTube personality that I've discovered recently is a young man, a kid really, named Gerbert Johnson. He has two video channels. One is Gerbert Johnson, the other is Gerbert's Void. And he's a funny guy, but he really spits truth as well. And something that he said in his last video was just right on the money, and I wanted to highlight it here, and I'll also link to it below because you should watch this guy. What he said was this. He said, "Think about your father. When your father, like Gerbert is now around the age of 19, he is 19, I believe. He's a good-looking guy. He's funny." He's got a lot of qualities that you would think would endear him to the fairer sex, but he's struggling in that department and makes no bones about it. And he talks about the instead of just doing what most 19-year-olds do and just thinking about their own predicament, he's a thoughtful young man. He's thinking in a wider sense about society and things that have what's brought things to this point. And what he says in his latest video is, think about your father. Think about what he looked like when he was marriageable. The kind of age that men were when they around the time when they married, say, between the ages of 18 and 25. I know people tend to marry later today, but in his case, he was just, saying, like, let me compare myself to my father. And he said his father was just this little shrimp of a guy, not very physically imposing, not very impressive, but had no problem meeting a woman who fell in love with him, and who became his wife, and they've been married ever since. And now they're in their 60s. I guess they must have had him, a bit later. I don't know how many brothers and sisters he has, or I don't know his family situation, but anyway, so, and I think of my dad, now my dad was, impressive, an impressive guy in a lot of ways when he was a young man. He was class valedictorian. He was a very, very hard worker. He was also a really great athlete. He was one of the top track and cross country runners in the state of Wisconsin, both in high school and in college. And he also wrestled, although I'm not sure what his if he distinguished himself quite as much there. And I know he didn't enjoy it as much. But anyway, my dad's just a sort of natural athlete. That those genes did not get passed on to me. But he's the kind of guy when he when he got in his 30s, picked up a tennis racket for the very first time at age 35 or so, and promptly became the champion of like one of the best players in the state of Georgia for his age bracket. You know, not on a professional level, but in this still volunteer league, he just very quickly ascended the ranks. He's just a natural athlete. He's just got it going on in that regard. But all that said, you know, if you saw my dad when he was 21, 22, 23, 24 years of age, you see him in the wedding picture with my mom, where I think my dad is let's see, it's 1965. I think my dad is 24 and my mom's 23 in that picture. And you know, he's like Buddy Holly glasses, skinny guy. He was tall, but skinny. You know, today I honestly think, and my mom in those wedding pictures was really gorgeous. I mean, and you know, think today, you know, sorry, mom, if you're watching this, which of course you aren't, but if you just happen to be watching this, I don't think you'd give my dad, I don't think you'd give dad the time of day if it were today. If you were in if your early 20s and you met my dad and he had all the qualities that he had back then, but it was set today, and you were both Zoomers instead of being, my parents were born before the war, so they're like pre-boomer. You know, they're both in their early 80s now. But, you know, just, no, I mean, like, I was, of course, I lucked out. I'm sort of the exception to the rule. I married, I met the girl that I was going to marry when I was 21, and I married her when we were 25. But, but, but in any case, the point is, I'm born. You know, I came to be of marriageable age even before all of the crap went down, before the internet, way before social media, and now, you know, it's just about impossible. Like you know, you look at young men in the past, and you know the women that they married, and it's not that I'm saying these guys are. I'm not putting these guys down at all. I'm saying things are just so out of whack today. They wouldn't stand a chance in today's world. So it's not that there's something wrong with men today. It's that there's something wrong with society. There's something wrong with the culture today. There's something wrong with how things have become, have been allowed to develop. Where, on the one hand, economically, you can't just, you know, be a man and be the breadwinner for a family like you could in the 40s or 50s or 60s, you know. So there's that's gone on, which has lowered men's overall value, you know, in a societal sense, and in the sense of how they're viewed by others, how they're viewed by wives or prospective wives. So you have that going on at the same time that you've got this destructive sexual revolution that's undermined monogamy and made it so that the top tier men are able to accumulate harems of women, and the mid to low status men just get ignored. So, you know, these are points that I've made before, but the whole, I think what made me put it in perspective, and the reason I'm talking about it now, is Gerbert's video where he says, "Think of your father," Uh, and so Zoomer kids, Zoomer young men, with their, in some cases, I guess, older Gen Xer or maybe baby boomer fathers, um, you know, they weren't. It wasn't like they were more impressive at all, but it's just that society's standards were not so out of whack, and women weren't being encouraged to be heartlessly hypergamous as they are now. And now, I don't know. It's not like you can help who you're attracted to and who you're not attracted to, but and of course, you don't want to just say to people, "Well, lower your standards. Your standards are too high." But we need to have there needs to be a recalibration. Otherwise, things are just things are only going to get worse, and people are only going to be more miserable. And you get what you fucking deserve. The 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 architects of this disastrous culture that we've got. I wish them nothing but the very worst, and I hope they get it soon. That's how I'll sign this one off. But anyway, just think about your dad, and how your dad was able to find a wife without a problem, and that tells you something. Your dad probably wasn't, as a young man, probably wasn't that different if from you, the way you are right now, if you're a young man right now. But the difference between you and he, as far as the fact that he was not ignored the way that you are ignored, if you're a young man today, that's what says it all, I think. So please do check out my series, which is ongoing, and I will put a link to it before I forget. I'll link to it also on my YouTube channel. A letter to today's unwanted men. Thank you for watching.